Hello everyone and welcome back to MyBizSecurity channel, and today we have a very special guest. Her name is Christina Cohen, and she's going to tell you how you can basically adapt to change given the environment, but also importantly is not to throw your hard-earned money against the wall, but very important is how you can get a return of 5 times or more on your investment, which is great for any business. So Christina, thanks for being on the channel.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I initially trained as a librarian, so I'm all very much into finding information, and transitioned through that into IT, and realised that when people were starting to look at IT systems, most people were focused on what was happening inside the system, whereas I was actually looking at, okay, how does that information get in there? Who uses it? How are they going to get it out? So really taking that librarian background of understanding the importance of everyone having access to relevant information at the right time for them to be able to use it, and transferring that into systems and businesses, because an IT system is really just a tool that they use, but they can also use other tools such as procedures and processes, and actually understanding how the business works. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do, is actually look at how everything works and how can it work better.
So what specific problem are you trying to solve? Let me put it in another way. What is the problem that most businesses have that they don't realize?
Sure. Well, what happens is most businesses are started by people who are really, really great at the thing that they do. And that's wonderful. But they're not experts at actually understanding what happens in behind the business, and how everything that they're doing actually affects everything else. So if you imagine that your business is like a car, and when you start up, you're in your car and you're basically bush bashing. You're making your own roads, you're working out where you need things to go, and you do what you can with what you know at the time, and that's fine. But you get to a certain stage of business where those roads are really bumpy, they're lumpy, you've got hairpin bends, you've got lots of traffic lights, and things just really aren't flowing. And when you need to have, staff, and you want lots and lots of customers, that doesn't really work for you. So I help you to put in those highways. We put in the bypasses, we get rid of the traffic lights. We just make everything really, really flow so you can serve lots more customers. And staff do their job really well, great customer service, more profitable for you.
Great. So you've actually defined the importance of the why.
Yeah.
So let me put it to you. Why are you doing it?
Why do I do it?
Yes.
Because I love making things work. I get a great deal of satisfaction in, starting with something that worked okay, but really with a couple of minor tweaks, sometimes some, significant changes, but actually making it work so much better, where people go, oh my goodness, is this how it works? Oh, that's wonderful. That just gives me such a thrill.
Was it? I see it. Yeah, that's a real reassurance as well. And
yeah.
And so I want to get to the crux of the discussion. I like the idea of actually really providing some tangible results. And I like the idea of what you classify as providing 5 times the value of the investment. So how did you come up with that idea?
Look, that particular number is a guess, but that's absolutely what I would aim for at the minimum. But certainly people that I've worked with have got significantly more benefit than just 5 times the investment of working with me. So one organisation I was working with, they're a renovation company. Before I started working with them, they were doing 2.5 renovations a week. They've now moved up to doing 4. So this guy, he really wants to 5 times his business in the next 5 years, and he knew that he couldn't get there with how things were currently working.
Yep.
So we made sure that everything in his delivery was working really well. So he's actually billing for everything. So because he knew that there were change requests and certain items that, you know, it was a bit hit and miss whether they were actually being billed for. So he's now billing for everything. So they're, you know, tangible money that he's now making that he wasn't making before. We're reducing the time that his staff are spending on work that they don't need to do. So actually making everything that they do relevant and contribute to the end goal. So it's not make work, it's not rework. You do it once and you do it right. So again, quantifiable amount that you can.
So it sounds like you're maximizing the value of the resource. So whether it be time, the people, the knowledge, and also the use of systems and processes.
Correct. And
So
making all that work.
Question, is that something that you lead? Is that one of the reasons why clients come to you?
Often they'll come to me because they, you know, they're spending a lot of time doing stuff and they think there's got to be a way to make this easier or to automate it. So often it's for a marketing automation system. They go, oh, I really need one of those. It's like, okay, well, we can get that working for you, but there's no point just looking at that. So I heard about one organisation. They got really, really great at, you know, getting their message right and all of that kind of stuff. So they got so many clients, which was wonderful, but they had to stop answering their phones because there was too much business coming in and they couldn't service it, and they didn't have things set up right through the delivery process so they could expand that to meet the demand. So, you know, they did really well up front, but you're not actually maximising the return on that investment. If you're then turning away all these customers and they're actually going to your competitors, it's like, well, why wouldn't you set it up so that not only do you do the first bit really well, you then can deliver the product, you know, that you can take on more staff when needed, and you know that they're going to be productive and deliver great customer service, and you get more profit.
Well, that's the name of the game. So tell me, given that we're going through an uncertain time with the COVID and the sort of huge amount of anxiety and stress, you know, everywhere that you see, including globally, how has that affected your business?
Well, a lot of people are now having to do things differently. So working from home, you know, remote working. Again, one organisation that I was working with, they had the 4 admin staff working in, you know, quite a large area. And the way that they would deal with the inefficiencies would be turn around and say, hey, you know, who knows where this is up to? That kind of thing. That doesn't work when you're remote working.
No, it doesn't.
You know, it's much, much harder to do that. You know, get on the phone, know they're busy. So we set up some systems, or we helped them to actually use their current systems better to record all of the information in that, so they had a single source of truth. And, you know, they've now found that incredibly helpful, saved them a heck of a lot of time because they knew that they could go to the one place, get all the information that they needed, and each person could continue on and do their work without waiting around. So yeah, people are looking at how can they work in a different way than they've worked before and still deliver the outcomes that they need.
That is such a good point. So I want to bring something which is quite important, because with what we're going, the question of being resilient to change as being a big question mark. So number one, what does resiliency mean to you? And also, what does it mean to the businesses that you looked after?
Sure. So what it means to me is being able to get to the place, the outcome that you wanted, even if all the paths that you thought that were going to get you there aren't. And so you have to work around them. So you have to be able to find ways to do the task to get you where you wanted to go. So, resilience to me is actually all about getting the outcome that you want without getting stuck in having to do it a certain way. It's coping with whatever life throws at you and still getting where you need to go.
I think today businesses are looking more and more on outcomes rather than having another fancy technology or what. What is the obstacles and the stress and the failures that you're seeing today in sort of the marketplace?
People just don't necessarily know how to adapt to change. So, as I said, most people start up in business because they're passionate about what it is that they do. They're great subject matter experts. But, you might be an expert in that area, but to be resilient in business, you actually need to understand a whole lot more than just your subject matter area.
Correct.
And, so being able to call on experts to help you and to be able to implement what they're saying. So it's, getting the right help for where you are and what you need is just so important.
Yeah, and I think most organizations are so much looking at their cash flow because, as we know, cash flow is king.
Yeah.
But the importance of resiliency being the underpinning in terms of having a positive mindset, having a positive attitude, and saying, maybe it's a little bit of Australian cliche, should be right, mate.
Yes.
But I think the idea is that, being persevering and trying to find ways of moving forwards with what you can and can't do.
Yes, yeah, and when you're finding ways to do things, you need to understand that, changing one thing or following one path has implications. It will affect other things around you. So you actually need to understand how everything is connected, because if you, remove one piece because it, isn't working, either because the environment or because it's not going to work for you, that has implications for how everything else operates in your business.
Yes.
So, so much is understanding those connections so that you know what things you can safely break and how you can connect them in different ways. So it's a bit like, wanting to have your business built of Lego pieces so that, you know that this can connect with that, but it has to be that way, not that way.
Correct.
So,
yes.
Yeah, it's just understanding how everything fits together.
Yeah. What are the typical threats that you see that organizations are facing, day in, day out?
Just pandemic is just one form of change. There's
correct.
It's lots of different forms of change. So new technologies that your competitors may be using, that they're developing an advantage with their ability to be able to deliver and to get customers, and so that's impacting on you because if everyone's going over there, what's your business going to do? So the rate of change with technology is one thing. One of the things that's happened a lot with coronavirus is always there is government regulation and rules and things, and at the moment the rate of change in those has been just enormous.
Yes.
They do change other than pandemics, but it's certainly been quite large for certain businesses.
A side question, do you see much discussion in the role that you play advising organisations around the cyber threat?
I haven't, no, but it is important, so certainly it's considerations when when people want software, certain things that they absolutely need to be looking at is if they're going cloud software, and so much small business technology now is cloud-based, what's the security environment around that cloud-based software? Where are the data centers located? because that can impact whether some, cyber threat actors are more likely to be able to get to your data. What kind of data are you storing in those cloud environments?
Yes. Yeah.
If it's very personal data, then this is something you have to be really conscious about. If it's, impersonal, there's no credit card details and financial details, then the impact is less, but you do still need to be very aware of that security environment around where your data is stored.
Yeah, look, it's interesting was what you said, and it just reminds me a little bit the sort of thinking that I remember once I got invited to do a presentation to a whole bunch of high-level organizations, and they came from an area of software coding.
Yeah.
And I asked them a very simple question, how many of you, when you think about developing a program or a project, do you have that security in mind? Very few.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
So do you see that when someone is, because what you do is automation, and now given that we've got a lot of remote people, so how do these people connect remotely, securely? How do they share information? How do they collaborate securely and so forth? These are all challenges. The question is then, do they think of that beforehand while they're developing that program? Or is that something that comes afterwards?
Ideally, it should be both. You should actually think about this up front.
Yes, correct.
Because it can impact what software you choose to use. If you're holding highly sensitive data, you don't want to use a cloud platform where you have no comfort in the security level that's being offered in the cloud. So you wouldn't actually go that direction. So it should be something that you think about up front. And it should be something that you think about after you've implemented it, in terms of you need to have all your procedures in place around that. And it's not a one and done. You don't set it up once and then ignore it. You actually have to build in how you're checking up on this and making sure that people are following those security rules so that your data and your customers' data is safe.
Yeah, great. So just sort of wrapping it up, so what would be the number one advice, recommendation that you would give organizations?
It's to really understand how things in your business work and fit together, because those linkages are incredibly important, because they're what will allow you to reconnect them in different ways if you need to, based on changes in your market. So the Duke of Wellington, he was a military commander. He commanded the Allied forces at the Battle of Waterloo against Napoleon. He's quite famous for saying, I build my campaign with ropes. So if a piece broke, I tied a knot and moved on. So you need to understand, your marketing, your sales, your customer delivery, your follow-up, your hiring and firing processes, your buying things from from suppliers, your supply chain, how all of those pieces work together.
Okay.
Really understand that.
So you basically have to start from the top and have a sort of a good view of, maybe you call it the 30,000 foot view.
Well, it's a global view. People tend to focus on businesses as this part of the business or that part. Well, actually, no. You actually need to understand how the whole thing fits together. And then you can focus on the individual bits when you know what it's connected to and what it's going to change.
Excellent. So, Christina, is there any question that I should have asked you but I haven't?
Oh, what's my favourite colour? It's purple.
Okay, excellent. But I do have another sort of side question, which is basically, for those viewers that want to reach you, how do they do it? What's the best way for them to contact you?
So I have a website, ChristinaCoin.com, Christina with a K, coin with a C, Christina,
Yeah, and we're gonna have-
COYNE.com.
Sorry, I was going to
That's
say
all right.
we're going to have the details also at the bottom of the
Yeah.
YouTube, so I'll have it there. So
Absolutely. And, you know, email address Christina@ChristinaCoin.com.
okay, beautiful, excellent.
Wonderful.
Christina, many thanks for that. Really enjoyed it, and I learned something too. So that's important. And look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.